Hi, everyone. Hold on just a second here. I'm just pulling up my notes. I hope everyone's doing well today. Happy Thursday. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the third event in the Contemporary Writers Series at Mills College. If it's your first time here at one of our events this semester, welcome. And if it's you're returning to the space, welcome back. My name is Brianna Grogan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first year here in the MFA program, the poetry program. And I just want to thank y'all, of course, for being here with us today. As always, we really appreciate when y'all are just showing up and being present with us while we navigate this new way to stay connected. And as we gather today from our various locations, it's incredibly important that we acknowledge the native land that we're living on. And the Place for Writers recognizes that Mills College sits on Ohlone native land, and we are grateful for the land and the labor of the Ohlone people, whose connection to this land we remember, and whose presence, past, present, and future, we respect. And so shortly after I do my little intro here, I'll drop a link in the chat if you want to learn more about the native land you're on. And lastly, as your designated MC for the Contemporary Writers Series, it's of course my duty to get y'all hyped for our next event. And our next event is the last event in the series, unfortunately, but just for the semester, it will be on November 5th. And we'll have Jordy Rosenberg in conversation with Susan Stryker, who is the 2020 to 2022 Barbara Lee Distinguished Professor of Women's Leadership at Mills. And of course, November 5th, that's going to be a pretty heavy week, but we still hope that you'll show up and be present with us, and maybe it'll be just a bit of a distraction from all the news. And you'll be able to sign up for that event shortly. I'll be sending around communication. I'll be posting on social media, those things. But let's get started. So of course, we're all here for the reading from the folks of the West Oakland to West Africa project. And as a reminder, you can always purchase their book, Our Spirits Carry Our Voices, on their website, which I will also drop that link in the chat. But before we hand it off to them, we'll hear from Mills College Professor of English, Juliana Spar, who will introduce them. And just a little bit about Professor Spar. She is a poet and a scholar of 20th century literature. Her poetry moves between lyricism, explanatory prose, and theoretical discussion. And her most recent book, That Winter the Wolf Came, concerns global struggle, especially those located at the intersection of ecological and economic catastrophe. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Juliana.
Thanks, Brianna. Hey, everybody. It's so weird to see you, but it's actually really great to see so many people I haven't seen in a while. I'm very happy to be introducing this project. I've told this story before, but some of you are new. That one of the best moments you could have when you're teaching is when you tell someone, a student, that what they are going to do is impossible to do and they need to scale it back. And then they show you that you are really, really wrong. And that's what Carla did. So when we had this community fellows meetings, when we got to Carla's proposal, I was like, no way, it's too ambitious. It'll never happen. And then when I first met Carla, I said the same thing. I was like, give yourself a break, do something more modest. It's too much. And thankfully, she didn't listen to me in the best way. She was just like, I know what I can do and I'm going to go do it. And she created this entire exchange with these poets in West Africa. And then she brought in Oakland community members and peers at Mills. And then all together, all those people organized a trip to West Africa. And then the next thing, there was an anthology, and they did this all with modesty and grace and with multiple participation. Like one of the things that's been very inspiring is how Carla worked with other people on this project, and it was no longer her project, but became everybody's project. They have this mission statement, and I'm just going to quote that for you, which is, our core values are to create a safe place for the transparent healing and growth of Black people, to deliver innovative and authentic forms of writing, and to engage the medium of spoken word to shape and define the narratives of the diaspora. to allow a visceral and uncensored critique of social systems through artistic expression. And then I just wanted to add that these sorts of international exchanges, when they happen, they tend to be the work of various national governments. And what's really great about this West Oakland to West Africa project is that it's community organized, it's community funded, and yet it's been very international. And this sort of work is so rare and so valuable to happen. So I'm now going to turn it over to Carla.
Thank you, Juliana. Oh gosh, I'm so happy to be here returning to Mills. And I just want to say that this project would not have been possible, despite what Juliana just said, without the support of my professors at Mills College, including my advisor, Juliana Spar, Stephanie Young, Patricia Powell, and basically all the Mills faculty in the English department. Mills gave legitimacy to this vision. And I also must thank the Ghana cohort facilitated by the accomplished Sir Black, who is with us today, and his team from Ehalakasa. Without Mills, I wouldn't have met the outstanding poets featured in the collection, Our Spirits Carry Our Voices. And I want to give a special shout out to Tyrese Dean Brown, who stood by my side from day one. So in the interest of time, I'm going to put bios in the chats as people read. I think I'm going to do that. And and I'm going to start by just reading from the introduction. It starts with a quote from Toni Morrison from Beloved. Sweet, crazy conversations full of half sentences, daydreams and misunderstandings, more thrilling than understanding could ever be. So this is the introduction here. Creating a poetry exchange between West Oakland and West Africa has been many years in the making. I worked with the idea of how rap is connected to the griot tradition and how initially hip hop was a phoenix for the Black community to rise from the ashes fist first. Long before Wakanda and many years after the 10-point program of the Revolutionary Black Panther Party in the 60s, and right about the time of Wanda Sabir's first African-American celebration of poetry at the West Oakland, AKA Huey Newton branch of the public library. And before Youth Speaks, there was a movement to get our people together using the tools of voice and wit. Inspired by so many great thinkers whose works have come together before this, June Jordan and Poetry for the People, Ishmael Reed and Multi-America, even KRS-One, and so many, many others. However, back then, in the 90s, I was not thinking about Africa. I was only thinking about Oakland. I was thinking, how can we stop this violence on Black bodies? How can we love each other again? And the wind whispered, Sankofa, return to your ancestors. So that's the beginning. I'm going to pass it on to our first reader, Ziamara. Ziamara is also a Mills alum, and I'm going to post her bio in the chat as soon as I can figure that out. So thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be back in the Mills space again. So thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And it's really good to see my former professors, Juliana. It's very nice to see you and Elmaz and my advisor, Mimi. It's always wonderful to see you guys. So today I decided to read my first poem from our book. I have my copy right here. And I joined the group a little bit later than everyone else. And I'm so thankful I did because honestly, I had never felt the way I wrote my poetry to be challenged before. You know, I just kind of do my thing and it was there and I kind of sat with it. But meeting with my partner, Natty, he was just so full of energy and grit and his words were so biting. It made me want to challenge myself. And our first poem together, I called it Unity. So I'm gonna read that here. And the topic for this poem was, Who Are You? was our very first poem as a group, so I figured it'd be the first poem we read today. Unity. I am we, a piece of the whole, the collective essence of life. We are the roar of the sea and the smashing against the cliffside, or the salt left behind in the grains of sand. We are sweet sugar mango glowing as it drops into eager hands, mouths hungry for its nectar. We are the sun beating down on a dirt road while heat waves dance in the distance. We are the earth that quakes in summertime, or the pulse of once still waters. Winds of time and of times past excite the surface. I am we, a piece of a whole, a piece of the collective essence of life thriving in the embrace of our mother's arms, our backs strong as ancient bedrock, her hair wild like the mangroves of old. So that is my first piece that I wanted to share with you all. The second one is a companion to the first piece. If you've read our book, then you know it's written entirely in the Renshi style. So the way it works is, I can show you in the book. So there is the end of my poem, that line, her hair wild like the mangroves of old. And as you can see, it's the first line of these piece. So the last line of his piece, right there, I'll survive on land only because you're a star, becomes the first piece of, becomes the first line of my next piece, Ascendencia. So here we go. I'll survive on land only because you're a star, a child of her, the queen of the night. Mi mamá primera, our first mother. She hangs in the sky and visits me every night. Her shining face cools the warm seas and heals tender skin. Our melanin is burned by the sun, rejected by a concept of light and dark, chained to the ground like animals they've created in their blind brilliance. The kingdom stretches across Earth, blooming in the hidden spaces of a universe divided and conquered. Her body is a marvel of the cosmos, her crown of the constellations in the sky. She is the pull in the waves as they crash on the shore at twilight. She is the dew that drops from the heavens, feeding grass of yesterday. She is the howl of a storm and the sweet caress of a midnight wind. She lulls me to sleep and mends my spirit each night. So as I'm trapped here on land, the unforgiving inferno of the sun beating on my back, I remind myself of you, your eyes. I see God in you, and she is beautiful. And both of those poems are found in our book. And thank you so much for having me this afternoon. It's great to see you all.
Thank you, Xiomara. She is beautiful. That exchange was so amazing to me. I just loved the exchange that you did. I'd like to bring up the next reader, which is Tyrese Dean Brown.
Thank you, Carla. So excuse me where I currently am. If I turn on my live video, it causes latency issues. So pardon the still photo, but that is me. I took that photo like last week. It's good to see everyone, some familiar faces from the lecture yesterday and the day before. So nice to see everyone. One thing that I learned about participating with Wodawa is that we weren't creating the standard poetry that we tend to study. We were using the theme poetry as a tool to communicate in a new way with new people. And if I could paraphrase Sir Black, one of the founders of Ihala Casa, he said that he and his colleague did not know they were creating poetry back in the early 90s. They just had something to say about life and the desire to be heard. I say this to say that I won't be reading from the book. That conversation, that exchange existed years ago, and it is timeless as it shows how we can connect across boundaries via poetry, heal through words, and sustain relationships through the exchange of words. But now for me, the dialogue has shifted. There is a sense of urgency that I feel moved to read about, and therefore I'm going to read from my first Saturday short story, which could be found on my website at excessivevolume1990.com. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. So the name of the short is Unbought, Unbossed. "We are going to get our seats," she croaked. Her throat was dry, but she didn't have time to lift her hand from the pen to the glass of water. Moses nodded heavily, bending the joints of his cracked and calloused hands. "You know they won't see us, Fanny. We can stand in those empty spots, fill up those missing spaces, and still they won't see us," he said, massaging the cramps in his hands. She paused and watched his fingers, brown like the Mississippi earth, move into a fist, then lay flat again. 1,200 miles and so many more I've walked. I will stand here longer than it took to get here if I have to. She spoke as she wrote another line. Moses nodded again. He understood because they walked in the same Mississippi footprints, headed in the same direction, forced to stop at the same crossroads. "A few years ago, I was lying there, empty, things stolen from me that I could never recover. But I didn't stop because they wanted me to. You don't give up living because a few no-good white men decide a Negro life doesn't matter." She turned to the dark window frame illuminated by the lamp and a few boardwalk lights that twinkled in the distance. "I think that lawyer Raw got something up his sleeve." She laid her pen down and watched the city lights flicker. "Good or bad?" Moses coughed his words, clearing his throat with the idle glass of water. "Can't say. I just know how lawyers work. That's why my speech gotta mean something more. So even if we don't win, we are heard." She raised herself from her desk chair and let her body fill the frame of the window. "The irony in a name," she breathed, a gentle, almost inaudible laugh. "We are standing in Atlantic City, trying to secure our rights to democracy in a country that stole us from our land across the Atlantic Ocean. What's funny," Moses spoke as he moved towards the door, "is that if I don't find what we've come looking for here in Atlantic City, I am headed across the Atlantic waters to find it there." "Amen," she hummed as they bid each other goodnight. Alone, she stood there, letting her hands fall to her stomach. They had stolen the parts of her they believed would stop her from wanting a future, tried to remove her legacy from tomorrow, thinking that if she couldn't birth a child, she wouldn't bother herself with the pain and labor it took to create new promises. But they did not know how much her people meant to her, how she would be the mother for an entire movement, even if her womb would never mother life. She sat back down at her desk and wrote, "If the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America." She continued as dry lightning lit up the sky as if the angels of heaven and warriors of hell were both winking at her. She finalized her thoughts. In the top right-hand corner, she dated it, August 1964. At the bottom, she labeled it, Atlantic City Democratic National Convention. She formally signed it, MFDP, F.L. Hamer. Thank you so much.
Woohoo! I just love hearing the work that is all the poets are presenting today. Thank you so much, Tyrese. Next up, we have Nora Anidoho from Ghana. Nora, are you with us?
Yes, I am here. Hello, Carla. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Hi, Black. Thank you. It's nice to see you all. Tyrese, that was a very beautiful story. Thanks a lot for sharing. So I'm going to be reading See a Way Through in the book, from the book. And here goes. When we look in each other's eyes, will we see a way through? When you look into my eyes, what will you see? Will you see answers to my questions? Will you see the thing around my neck? How tight is it? Will you see strength and resilience in eyes that don't cry? Or will you see broken tear glands? Will you see bravery? Or will you see fear? Will you see my dark companions? Will you see my demons like fever gone by morning? When you look into my eyes, will you know that I am dying, that I am living, that I am weak, that I am strong? Do you think I need God? Do you think I'll do just fine? Can you answer my questions? Do you know me now? And I wrote this poem as a response to personal struggles. But now I realize that really goes beyond me. And I would really want to speak on the Nigerian issue, and then a poem I wrote concerning that, very short one. And very shortly, I realized that sometimes when things are happening to others, some people feel a sense like it's not happening to me. So they perceive, they don't demonstrate any form of empathy. And this poem really is just to call out for people to be more empathetic towards the things that are happening in Nigeria, to be more concerned about the like the blatant disrespect for human lives that's happening now. And it's a very short piece. To those praying for Nigeria, that's truly beautiful, truly so. But from the mouth of no God have I heard it said, pray without action, no God. So you see, when you pray, don't just pray, be concerned, spread the message, donate your time, donate your skills, donate your attention. Don't just use your literal voices, use your phones. Because you see, prayer fortifies you to act. Prayer gives you the strength for action. Thank you very much, Carla.
Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you for sharing. Nora's other poem in the book is also fabulously beautiful. It was such an honor to work with you and the other poets from Ehala Casa. Next up, we have another very close friend and Mills alumni, Mimi Noemi Rose Gonzalez Farias.
Thank you so much, Carla, for getting all my names in there. And I want to thank you and Mills for the life-changing opportunity that, was that on mute, by the way? Oh, great. for the opportunity and the wonderful experience of returning to a university setting, academia, and pursuing something as important as a lifelong dream of an MFA in creative writing and poetry. I learned so much, and I just increased my connection to other poets, to the East Bay, to Carla, and to Ozzy, somebody I have not yet met, but who I connected to because of the poetry exchange. Now, Carla collaborates with a lot of people, and in so doing, makes it even bigger and makes it more accessible for so many people to touch their creativity. She, a collaborator friend of hers, great poet, been able to just sit and write together when I was living there, Sarah Beal. And Sarah Beal helped create the first chapbook, which was our first run of our poetry together, and which eventually became Our Spirits Carry Our Voices. So, and Carla and Sarah Beal have created a publishing company called Colossus. They've just created a new book called Home, which is an anthology about an anthology of poems about home, whose proceeds all go to Moms for Homes in Oakland. And it's really incredible that they do take action. So I think Nora would be proud that that's exactly what you're doing. And I thank you endlessly, Carla, for including me in Woe to Wa. I'm going to read to you from the first chapbook. And I feel like I should hold up our spirits carry our voices when I do that. Abidjan by Azi Edua. I come from a place where people laugh about everything, even wars, diseases. Everything is going to be okay is our motto. I come from here and there. Traveling shapes me more than my origin. I come from Ivory Coast. I'm a pure African. It means I was born in Africa. I'm still looking for Africa. Here, life is a dance. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Ole. So I picked up her last line, Ole, in the Renchi form and made Ole my title. Ole, Mimi Gonzalez Barrias. Her life is a dance, 3 steps forward, 1, 2 back. Ole in the game, bull on the track. She's a smart woman, knows what's best. Watch your mother, my father might have said. The kind of woman loves all in. My mother loved my father, even when he made children that weren't hers. Watch your mother, my father might have taught. She was the one untying his knots. Every day she worked, she barked, she returned, she marked time in our hearts through her toil. Work, work hard, feed your children, guard who you trust, judge their love. And I didn't set that stopwatch. I would like to share with you, I'm still writing poetry, and MFA was the launch. Mills was the way to launch that creative expression. This is a recent poem, originally titled War Stories, a poem for the man at Horrocks. Now it's called Surrendered Look Betrays a Victory, because you're supposed to remember that that the title is the first line of the poem. Surrendered Look Betrays a Victory. Some bustling Saturday afternoon at the former farm stand, now turned upscale grocer, the kind of place where shoppers sample wine, turning party from chore. You and I maneuvered among the busy bodies. Our eyes met across the ready fruit, gold, green, and Fuji. 4 citrus bins away, you grabbed a handbasket. I leaned into a cart among the eaves, each of us wearing fine clothes, the self-delivered goods of having survived into middle age, with the sense and approval to feed ourselves the good organics. Because we both looked, we saw ourselves 30 years earlier, when gazes shared would have held long enough to pull triggers. We'd laugh and prove all night what great shots and trick riders we were. Our proud chests heavy with medals, virginity heroics, atmospheres queered to paisley, fields ridden fallow. We moved to the roots of turnip and beet without smiling, but for the briefest flight, both ventured a second butterfly pause. Because we both looked, we saw landscapes vanquished, victories of bodies past, curved trees lifted on limb and twine, warriors of a certain cut, ours, know the heft of lifting, the sword of a glance, vanquishing doubt to cower corners. Because we both looked, we saw a singe we dare not blister, ducked for cover in the look away aisles of bulk dried grains. Thank you. Thank you, Carla. And thank you, Mills.
Thank you so much, Mimi. Such beautiful work, new and from the anthology. I'm so happy to hear what you've been up to recently. Our final reader for this reading is Radia Ayobami, and she was also in our group. I would love for her to share with you what she's been up to. Radia?
Hello, folks. Can y'all hear me? Okay, it might be some background noise because I'm outside in Harlem. So, you know, whatever it is, that's what it is. So it's so funny that the space feels just like Mills, even though we're in all these different spaces. So I just got to acknowledge that. And I really have to acknowledge that WOWA, it really like lifted my spirits at a time when I was feeling low. And I was so glad to gather with them every week and just get back to poetry because I was so into just doing the work for the MFA that I put the poetry to the side for a little bit. So when we got in that room, it woke up a whole lot of things. And then that poetry also informed my other writing. And even though I didn't go to Ghana with them, I just honor them because they always kept me in the loop. They always kept me in the emails. They always kept me knowing what was going on with their projects. I think it's a beautiful association that they have created. And I hope to go with them next trip so I could eat me some red because that's what I really love. So I do not have the book on me. I'm going to read my piece. It's called Where I'm From. So just give me a minute to pull it up. Where I'm From. Flatbush Avenue and Fulton Street. Dollar cabs, black soap, and sandalwood incense. Sisters in flowing dresses and brothers in kufis calling Alafia, salam, and peace, sister, how you be? African dance classes and kente cloth skirts and summer festivals and city parks with chain link fences. Old ladies sitting on porches, wide-legged, shaking their heads at young girls walking grown with brand new women hips. Mamas and grandmamas and aunties living together in one house, raising children, paying bills, and cooking in big family pots. Family reunions in tobacco fields and dirt roads with no light, and Sunday morning church where women in white sit in the front pews praying for every living thing. People that survived the treacherous crossing and still made their lives a song flung up to heaven. Cornbread and collard greens, welfare reform and the Great Migration, Harlem Renaissance and Black Power, straight up old school love. So that is my piece from the book. Thank you for letting me share it. And if I have one little minute, I will share another short piece. This is not from my book. I have a book that's called The Long Amen from my website. And I will drop that in the chat if we have time. But this is just a little piece that I wrote during quarantine. It's basically what I've been doing all quarantine long. It's called Quarantine Meditations, Full Moon. Sacred ceremonies, complex elixirs, healing 7 generations, writing, dancing, squats and sacred prayer, hugging babies, salt scrubs, tea with toddlers, buying fly African dresses, long beach days and twilight beach nights, beautiful blackness, hood parks, rambling afternoons buying shea butter, black soap, incense, and mangoes, late night shenanigans under the flatlands moon. So I had to really look up a short piece because I'm lengthy. So thank you to WOWA for these 2 opportunities. Please support them. Please buy the book, stay in association with them. Great association, great folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radia. So this has been a beautiful reunion. People are all over now, having graduated from Mills, and it's so wonderful to see faces in Texas and Michigan and New York and here. Brianna, it seems like we have a little bit of time. Are you going to open it up for questions?
Yeah, we can totally open it up for questions. If anyone has any, you can feel free to drop it in the chat. I'm just reading all the love in the chat. I see a question that says, is the project ongoing?
Sure, I'll take that question. But other people who were part of WOWA, feel free to unmute and answer questions as well. So when the book came out, it was right in February, and then March hit. And so we were actually trying to plan, we had planned a reading, like a book launch reading in Accra. And so when we went into shelter in place, we had to redo all of our book launches, and I was really thrown off. I have to say it was a bit of a challenge, but we overcame. And so we also, that was going to be our next project. Now we've regrouped again, and we are trying to do a second exchange. And if we do it, it will happen in January. So I'm hoping to get funding for that. And I'll definitely reach out to Mills, and definitely Tyrese. I'll let Tyrese talk a little bit about our website, but she's put an interest form on our website, and we will be reaching out to people once we know if we're going to have a second exchange, which would, again, hopefully be in January to June.
Yes, yes. So as soon as you go to the website, it asks you if you want to join our email list, and you can just type in your email and you'll get our monthly newsletter. So what we're doing, where we're at, what we're reading, any upcoming events. And then also when we start opening up for new participants for the 2021 year, you'll also be sent information about that too.
Awesome. I also see here, there was a question from someone asked for more information about home. So to talk more about that for a second.
I just dropped the link for you.
Oh, perfect.
Sure. Colossus Home is a project that was envisioned by a friend named Sarah Beal and myself about protesting, again, poetry is protest, the homeless crisis here in Oakland as we began to see more and more people living in shelters. And so we put out a call, and people, poets from the Oakland community, including a lot of poets in this room, responded to that call. And so there's a second anthology, which Tyrese put the link in the chat, and all the money from that goes to Moms for Housing here in Oakland, and they're super amazing, worthwhile group to look up. The goal is $8,000 if we sell all of our books. So far, we're at $2,000.
Okay, then we have to help you make that goal. Moms for Housing is also a very great organization. So yeah, thank you for plugging that there. So let's go ahead and just wrap up for today. Thank you all so much for being here. And of course, special thank you to all the readers from West Oakland to West Africa for doing this and for being here with us. A round of applause. And I think I said this the last time, but I hate so much how over Zoom, you can't hear me saying, or like people being like, but just now I was saying that several times. But yeah, so just hearing about this project has been overall such a privilege, and it's such an honor. And I think it's a great reminder that, you know, we can still create community, and how important it is to continue to share our voices. But yes, overall, that's the end of the event. Thank you all so much for coming. The Place for Writers hope to see you very soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. It's great.
Bye, thank you.